Good evening. All right. Happy Wednesday, everyone. Take a minute and click go live over here. Hope everyone is having a great evening. I want to take a few minutes and kind of dig into something that uh, actually I'm pretty excited about. To be honest, make sure that my mic is on because I made that mistake last time. But I want to dive into something that I'm pretty excited about, and something that I've been talking about for the past, I don't know, past couple of days. We'll put it that way. Anyway, so I want to talk about solar here in Georgia. This is something that I'm pretty passionate about. Something that I've been kind of pushing really since I got into the industry, and something that has really been a long time coming. But looking back, kind of makes me a little sad because it didn't have to be as complicated as it has been. But that's okay. We're here now, and no sense in you know resting on the past. So today I wanted to talk about, the topic of homeowners in Georgia, and specifically residential solar, and whether it's worth it. Okay? I'll just put it that way because there's really no way to sugarcoat it, and there's really no reason to sugarcoat it, other than just saying, is it worth it? So I'm going to go through a couple of different topics because I want to give a well-rounded answer. And but one thing that I want you to keep in mind is I don't want I don't want this to come across as just my opinion. Like, this is what Jordan thinks of whether or not solar is worth it for Georgia homeowners. These are facts. This is data that I've pulled from the SEIA, um, the Department of Energy, um, some other financial and some other um, industry websites, etc. So anyway, let's go ahead and dive in. So first and foremost, um, the solar. Let's talk about the landscape for a second. So the solar industry, there's been a lot of changes. It's growing. I've in other videos, I've kind of gone through the history of solar and solar, the history of the panel, of the silicon wafer, and just how, we get solar. But, and so the industry is very old, right? But if you look at it in terms of modern times, it's actually fairly young, just in terms of adaptability and efficiency. We'll put it according to those metrics. And so, it's growing now at a pretty substantial rate. And so, according to the SEIA, the Solar Energy Industries Association, Georgia is surprisingly in the top 10 out of all the states in the United States, in the top 10 states, in installed solar capacity. Now, that's not solar potential. That's not based off of sunlight. That is installed panels. Okay. The amount of installed panels. Now, I will put a little exclamation or an asterisk, and I will say that there is a lot of commercial, but there's not quite that much to make it, like overwhelmingly just, throw it to say, okay, yeah, it's all commercial. But what that means is we are literally talking about solar panels going up in our state more than almost anywhere else in the United States. And so to put some numbers around that, because again, data is where we're gonna base our decisions off of. Right now, over 2.6 gigawatts. So when you use when you consume electricity, when you turn a light on and off, when you run your refrigerator, you use electricity in kilowatts. Okay. So kilowatts, megawatts, gigawatts. So 2.6 gigawatts of solar energy is currently installed in Georgia. And so to put that in terms of homes, that's about 300,000 homes. Doesn't sound like a whole lot when you look at the grand scheme of things, but it's growing every single day. I kind of take it upon myself every now and then to go kind of virtually scour Google Maps and see see where I can find some black squares on some roofs here and there. And every single time I look, about once or twice a week, every single time I look, I can find more and more and more. So what does that mean for you? Well, the good news is Georgia is primed for solar. I think we all know that the southern climate, we're here in mid-October and it's only just now starting to get cool. We were talking about false fall, last month, for instance, and we've still had a couple of 90-degree days since then. So southern climate, long sunny days, they are getting shorter, but I read that Georgia has an average of 218 sunny days out of 365. More than half of them, 218 to be exact, are sunny in Georgia per year. Okay. The DOE also points out that in our region, like I said, we have a lot of sunlight year round, but so specifically here in Georgia as well, the average home receives about 2,800 hours of sunlight a year. So think about that. Your shingles essentially are getting baked day in and day out. And it doesn't matter if it's December, July, May, or, it doesn't matter the month. Sunlight is sunlight. Okay. It may not feel hot on our skin, but it's still sunlight. And not to get off track, but I've explained this a couple of times here and there, and it's interesting to me, but there are two different types of panels. There are thermal panels, which generate electricity based off of thermal or heat energy. And then there's also UV panels, which, like if you go to the beach or if you're at a pool on a cloudy day rather, and you still get sunburnt, that's your skin is cooking off of the UV rays. And so that's what solar panels generate. Now, on a cloudy day, less UV rays are going to go through the clouds, so it's less production, but it's still something. It's not like they just, turn it off and it's done. So, but I digress. So that's sunlight. Cool. So we got plenty of sunlight, 218 days a year, give or take. Now, let's talk about the energy grid, because this is something that I think is really extremely important. Just with everything that's been going on, not only even in Georgia, but South Carolina, North Carolina, Tennessee. I mean, just all around us, Florida. The grid is getting bombarded. 360 degrees around and right in the middle. I think I heard at most it was like 1.3 or 1.5 million homes in upstate South Carolina alone were without power for around a week. So, I mean, you can only, you know, imagine that you just find a way. At that point, you just find a way to go to a hotel, go to a friend's house, go to a family member's house, shower before going to work. If your work has power, or you go to Starbucks, you go to the gym to shower. I mean, you find a way, but let's be honest, it's 2024. Like, why are we still living like this? Furthermore, why are we still accepting this when we know that there is a better way? Okay. So, even outside of the instability of the grid, which is on average nationwide 150 years or older, we all know that utility rates are continuously going up. I mean, they're not even hiding it at this point. They go in front, if you're in South Carolina or if you're in Georgia, they go in front of the Public Service Commission and they say, okay, I need, another $1.8 billion. And the commission says, I don't know, how about 1.5? And they come back and they say, I really need nothing less than, 1.65. And they say, okay, cool, done. And guess what? It's not coming from the Treasury. It's not coming from the Federal Reserve. It's coming from your bill. And again, like I said, that's partly because of the aging grid infrastructure, but it's also because companies are having to spend more on maintenance, more on repairs, more on, power lines and power poles getting snapped in half like they're, toothpicks. And, yes, from a society standpoint, sure, it seems reasonable to have to pay for that for a limited amount of time. But what happens when you haven't got done paying that off and this time next year, then one happens again? Like they hadn't even gotten done paying or building from damages from Hurricane Ian 2 years ago down in Florida, and then Helene hits. So it's just a matter of, when is enough enough? When do we say, okay, we've given you the money that you need, not even speaking on the profits, the record setting profits that they've made, that the board members get, that, should be going to the linesmen, all of the bonuses that the executives get, that, should be going back into homeowners' pockets. All of that gets recycled through, and they say, well, we need more the next year. But anyway, I digress. So, talking about the grid, and there is something to be said about it. I've said it in another video that I'm not looking to get rid of the grid. I think it has a purpose, but I don't think that we need to be 100% dependent on it. Solar, on the other hand, allows you, the homeowner, to produce your own power. It also reduces your reliance on the grid. So it's not just about saving a couple of bucks, but it's literally about gaining the independence and gaining that security. So another statistic, the U.S. Department of Energy stated that homeowners who go solar, and this is nationwide, so this is going to be across all markets, homeowners who go solar typically see 20 to 40% savings on their monthly electric bills, depending, again, on the size and their consumption, and then, of course, where they're at, the market, the pricing, etc. But on average, so you see plenty, I see plenty of homeowners who see 80, 70, 80, 90% savings. I also see people, homeowners who see less than that. But the fact of the matter is, you're doing it not just for the environment, you're not just doing it for the savings, you're doing it really honestly in this region in Georgia. I would most be considering it for the security. Okay. But let's put a pin in that subtopic for just a moment. And because I want to talk about the savings specifically, because there is still something to be said about that. So you're probably wondering, how much can you actually save by going solar? Well, I just talked about it, an average of 20 to 40% savings on their monthly electric bill. So that's, just speaking raw numbers, if your electricity bill is $500 a month, you're saving anywhere from $100 to, what would that be? $100 to $200 a month. So that is good. But what I want to talk about is the fact that on average, additionally, or in a different way of looking at it, a Georgia homeowner can save anywhere from $10,000 to $30,000 over the life of the system. Now, these are conservative numbers. I was just talking with a homeowner in Lawrenceville not too long ago, a couple weeks back, and we were looking at the numbers that he can expect from his system, and I think it was around $80,000 to $85,000 over the life of that system. And that right there is money that you are keeping in your pocket, that you're earning from your livelihood, that you're either saving or you're able to invest in another area of your life that you're not having to pay to the utility companies in order to rent that energy. Okay. And here's the thing. Solar panels aren't just a short-term solution. So according to the National Renewable Energy Lab, the NREL, solar panels have a lifespan of 25 to 30 years. I think that's kind of a given these days, but that's also what the warranties are looking at. So decades of energy production, decades of savings, and even the efficiencies have gotten higher and higher. I mean, I did a video on this the other day, and I'll tag it in the comments, but even batteries, which used to be enormously expensive and still technically are, have actually dropped about 90% over the last decade and a half, but about 15, 20 years. And so this technology is continuously improving, continuously becoming more efficient, and even through the software is becoming even more and more productive. And so as you're going through, that's just another way for you to secure your home, for you to get more value out of your home, which I haven't even touched on, but it also allows you to get more out of like your HVAC system, more out of your refrigerator, more out of other systems around your house, insulation. And so it helps in so many different areas. So let's talk about incentives for just a second, because while Georgia is in the top 10 in terms of solar installed, I think that just is a testament to how valuable solar is, because to be frank with you, Georgia doesn't have a lot going for it comparative to other states when it comes to incentive. So again, that's just a testament to the value of solar in and of itself. We don't have a statewide solar rebate program. We don't have a state income tax credit like South Carolina does. We don't have any kind of certificate program like some states up north have. We do have the federal income tax credit that every other state has, so that still applies. And right now, that income tax credit allows you to deduct 30% of the cost of installing a solar system from your federal taxes. So if you're a homeowner who, you're constantly paying, if you're constantly underpaying throughout the year, meaning you're having to pay in March or April, then this is something that I highly incentivize you. I highly recommend and encourage you to look into, at least see what the numbers are going to be so that you can then say, yeah, it's something worth, having a conversation about, or probably more importantly, no, I can check it off and I can re-look into it in a couple of years. Um, some local utilities, even on top of the federal income tax credit, offer a performance-based incentive, and that will actually pay you for the energy that your solar system generates. Now, again, because that's what they refer to as like a net metering program. You may have heard them on the news, you may have heard about it in different forums, social media, or just around the dinner table. And it's not as incentivizing here in Georgia, but it can be. Um, it can be helpful. But again, if you have a battery, then it's kind of a moot point. But you can look in that direction. Okay. Going back to the federal income tax credit for just a second, though, I want to make sure that I specify this and disclaim this. I'm not a tax professional. I do know of a number of tax professionals who are experts and who work with solar homeowners. But basically, you get 30% of the retail price tag. So let's say if your price tag before the federal income tax credit is $57,000. I'm just spitting, throwing out a number there. Let's say it's $57,000. The federal income tax credit that you would get back would be $17,100. So that $17,100 could be applied towards your federal income taxes that you paid starting with the following year's tax returns and rolling out over a span of 5 years. So that year's tax returns plus 4 more. So it can really add up, and you're not forced to reinvest that into or towards, you're not forced to apply that to the financing of the solar system, but it certainly, does a lot of good to do so. You can still, if you want to apply that towards credit card debt, if you want to apply that towards another home improvement project, if you want to apply that and go out and have a nice cruise, it is at your prerogative to be able to do so. But that is yours. That's your money that you get back, given that you have paid that in taxes and that you're able to be credited that. So that's another incentive. So you've got, the sunlight, you've got the savings over time, you've got the fact of energy independence, you've got the incentives now. And one of the most common concerns, I guess, because again, I don't want it to all be pro. I want to look at solar and give you an unbiased look at whether or not it's worth it. And so one of the most common concerns I hear is, well, what about the maintenance? Well, there's some good news in this. So solar panels are actually pretty low maintenance. And in fact, from conversations that I've had with other solar professionals, soft washing companies who, have years of experience, even talking with the manufacturers, Anwa, Solar, AEC, some of these others, they actually they actually recommend only using a light soap and water type of mixture on any kind of solar panels that are out there today. So, most systems come with warranties that last 20 to 25 years. And so, if you have something that is damaged, then it's most likely going to be covered. Even, when it comes to wiring, and we have a lot of ways to prevent creatures getting up underneath that and working their way in and whatnot. But things happen. And so that's why we have 20 to 25, 30-year warranties. Um, and so, while there's not a whole lot that can go wrong with them, even with the batteries, most of them are solid state these days. There's not a lot of moving parts. There's not motors like you have with generators or anything like that. And so there's not a lot that can go wrong, I guess, unless something shorts out. And like I said, then you have the warranty. So you've got light washing, you've got no movable parts, and then last but not least, these modern panels are really meant to be able to withstand the elements. I mean, you've got panels that are rated to withstand hailstorms. You've got panels that literally are rated to be able to protect a roof in the path of a hurricane. You've got panels that, are able to that are able to withstand other moving, limbs and all that kind of stuff. But things do happen. So, again, going back to that warranty, that's why it's so important to look at who you're getting in bed with, so to speak, and what they are covering. And so, last but not least, talking about longevity and the maintenance and the lifespan. Again, I did a video on this the other night, but modern solar panels, and again, this is not something I'm making up. This is according to the Department of Energy. Modern solar panels actually can maintain 80% of their efficiency over and even after 25 years of production. So again, less worry, more focus on enjoying the benefits. And it's just, another feather in the cap of a solar homeowner and their benefits. So last but not least, I want to bring it kind of home with something that has been all over the news and kind of gets brought up. And depending on who you are, it can kind of, come across as like, oh, another, one of those tree hugger or whatever, environmentalist, or, laying down in front of the cars and all that kind of stuff. But I feel like it's important. It's at least important to consider, because this is something that, whether or not we like it, we're not always going to be here, but our kids and our kids' kids are. And so, this is something that I really want to drive home, because, I hear it every single day. I don't, doesn't matter about doing my part or whatever. I'm already 60 years old. I'm already 70 years old. And you just have to look at them and go, okay, that's great, but what about your kids? Or if they don't have kids, but they have a brother or sister who does, it's like, what about your niece or your nephew? What about the kids that you see getting off the school bus every day? They have to grow up, watching Florida get flooded, 2 to 3 times a year, watching Montana burn to the ground, watching, glaciers, another one split in half, watching, forget about the rising sea levels or whatever. If you don't believe in all that kind of stuff, just look at the data. Again, I'm speaking strictly from the data. And so, if you're thinking about solar, you're not just saving money, you're also doing your part for the planet. And again, not for today's generation, but for 3 to 4 generations after tomorrow. Okay. So again, food for thought. So bringing it all back home, the reason I wanted to make this video was because I wanted to give you plenty to think about. And so coming back to the title of this video, is residential solar worth it for homeowners in Georgia? And all things considered, again, it's an individual decision on a house by house case. You may have one house in a neighborhood where they can benefit greatly, and you may have one right next door where it can't work for them whether they wanted it to or not. And so each home and each homeowner has to look at the numbers, has to look at the pros and cons, and make that decision for themselves after getting all the facts. But in my opinion, for what the benefits are that are being provided, yes, absolutely. The savings are real. The environmental impact is significant. And the investment in a more sustainable future is there for you and your family. So, don't take my word for it. Do your own research. But I wanted to make this video, and I wanted to share with you about the different benefits and, let you decide for yourself. So if you want to see a true audit, an unbiased, completely objective audit for your home, just go to solar.dreamlifeinnovations.com. There's a little form you can fill out. There's also plenty of resources. Again, trying to be as objective and unbiased as I possibly can, because at the end of the day, I want to be the first one to tell you, no, it won't work for your home, or yes, and this is why. I want to be that first one. So it's quick, it's easy, it'll give you real numbers. Go check it out. See what solar can do for you. And until then, as always, I enjoy giving this information out. If there's something specific that you want to learn about, please, I invite you to put questions in the comments. I invite you to ask me questions privately if you like. But until then, I appreciate your time, and I hope y'all have a great evening, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks.